When you're working at the BBC or at Children in Need, and it's the same, it's the BBC's Children in Need, isn't it? Is it difficult, sort of, not just the people who are scared of being, oh no, we did the wrong thing, but there must be a lot of younger, I suppose, employees who might now think you're a bigot or something.
Yeah.
Did you get that?
Yeah. I got it from the chief executive.
Oh, so the guy, oh right,
because as chair, you don't hang out that, I mean, I would get, in fact, during COVID, we did a lot of kind of quizzes online, on Zoom and whatnot. So actually I got to know the staff quite well. It employs about 100 people and it's up in Salford in Manchester.
Oh, right, yeah.
And, I think the chief executive, who is my age, would say to me, this won't go down well with the troops, sort of thing. This decision will go down very badly because a lot of young people work for BBC Children Need. I don't care. That's his problem. That's what he's paid £150,000 and drives a Range Rover for. It's really not my problem. And, so that I just dismissed that. And also, he also tried as did LGBT Youth Scotland, when we withdrew the grant temporarily while this report was being made. They wrote this letter. I mean, they're not stupid. They wrote a very good letter saying what you're doing is wrong and we won't be able to have this texting service for young people who are concerned about their sexuality and therefore they're all going to commit suicide.
Oh, God.
This is such an old sore. It's like if you don't allow puberty blockers to ruin children's lives and sterilize them, they'll commit suicide.
Yeah.
Zero proof of that. There is no evidence of that whatsoever. But the chief executive, it was one of his lines that he parroted to me many times, like, children across Scotland will be committing suicide. No, they won't.
It's also psychologically, we've known for a long time, that's one of the most horrible kinds of blackmail that people can do. That old trope of the husband saying, if you leave me, I'll take my own life.
Yeah.
Christ.
Yeah.
I hate that. And but it's not backed up by any stats, is it?
None. It's cowardice.
Well, it sounds like you were going full throttle into this, but were there surprises when you sort of came out publicly saying, hey, in terms not just of attack, but people saying, come over to our side?
It overwhelmed my life. It overwhelmed the life of my husband, my ex-husband, my 4 children. I could not think or do anything else other than focus on LGBT Youth Scotland and why we were funding them. And I got onto all sorts of chat groups from horrified parents across Scotland who've been anxious and agitating about, because the Scottish government funds LGBT Youth Scotland to the tune of about £2 million a year. So this was just kind of overwhelming and all-encompassing my head, and still the board would not move, would not finish the grant. And
your family must have been on board. Sorry, your family must have been on board, though,
they were.
Regarding the Scotland, this particular LGBTYS.
Yeah, they were. And so in the end, I had to speak to the papers. And I spoke to the Times. Janice Turner wrote a very, very measured, very good piece about it. The world didn't stop turning. Nobody had a death threat. Nothing terrible happened. And the story wasn't picked up by anyone. And but the fear of media coverage, ironically, because I'd said we must remove the money because of the anxiety of media coverage. The fear of media coverage, because I told everyone that this was going to appear in the newspaper that day. I said it was going to appear in the paper the next day. The day before, we pulled the money because they were so worried about press coverage. That was more important than the abuse and the pain and peril of children. So figure that out. And then that was at the end of August, beginning of September. next board meeting was October. In October, I turned up to chair the meeting and was basically thrown under a bus for speaking to the papers. So they said, why the board's like, well, you've spoken to the papers and we still want to carry on chairing the board, but actually you must now sign on a dotted line never to speak to a newspaper again. And I just said, well, so I resigned because the board clearly didn't have any faith in me. And then it did go into the press. And I wrote a very angry resignation letter, which then found its way into the papers. And then it was a big story. And then there was reputational damage for BBC Children in Need, which could have all been avoided.
It's so stupid sometimes, people. And what about the sort of reaction on the other side? Where,
Oh yeah, you asked this. Yes. Well, I was very, very worried about this. I wasn't worried about my personal safety. I think I was worried that I would be sort of howled down for being kind of old-fashioned and prudish and not thoughtful and bigoted and to my amazement and delight, I was saluted by people who understood that what I was doing was sticking up for children, really girls and young women, in the sort of schools thing, but also all children who have been brainwashed, I think.
Feels like maybe if you'd done this 5 years earlier, you might have had more pushback and more anger and you'd have been out. Because I feel like we're getting past it a little bit.
I think we are.
Yeah.
I really think we are. I think the tide is turning. And I think that actually the media and certain areas of the arts, far from being at the vanguard, are the kind of last to catch up.
Isn't that funny?
Which I think is
David Tennant. I bet he supports LGBTYS.
I think I wouldn't know, but I'm sure he probably does.
Scottish actor.
I know.
He loves that.
Yeah. I mean, or anyone who says a woman can have a penis. Which, I mean, LGBT Youth Scotland actually put out a thing saying, talking about lesbian kind of get-togethers and saying, advising young people, young women, take contraception with you because some lesbians might have a penis.
No, don't. I can't.
This is going into schools.
It's ridiculous. You know what though?
It's just absolute mad.